Good morning to everybody. This is Stefano, Mazarin Geopolitics from Italy. Today we will make open mic, open table. So if everybody want to connect, there is the link in the description of the channel. If you like our contents, please subscribe, make the like to the video. Today we have a little bit of unannounced last minute open mic, just because in the next 18 days I will be in Japan, so I will be in another time zone, so I cannot guarantee any type of speech, but we will start after the 12th of November. Only one news before starting to chat. I already prepared a planning every day with a special video that I already uploaded for you with a lot of content. It's called Mazarin Pills, so every day you will have our new contents to see. It's about geopolitics generally, so not only war in Ukraine and whatever. So you have Caucasus situation, China, US politics, foreign politics generally, energy, whatever. The next streams, I will say you in advance, like a little bit spoiler. We will have Carola Nakia, that is like a Lebanese entrepreneur that now is based in UK, and she is specialized in energy. So she will make a stream about the energy situation after this, let's call realignation of the global power. We will have Paul Sanders from US, and is specialized in energy too. So I think that these two panels will be very interesting. Plus two panels with unusual focus. One is about the digitalization of the public administration with Gianluca Sgueo, an Italian friend. And the last one, we will make in the last 2 weeks of November. It will be Murat Çınar, that is a Turkish journalist that will talk about all the situation that it's all around Turkey. This panel will be, for me, very interesting because I think in the next years, Turkey will have a huge importance, especially in the Central Asia and former Soviet republics that are Muslim and let's say Turkoman, like Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and all the part about Azerbaijan, whatever. So let's start. For a little update about Italy, that it's important about geopolitics because we had a little bit a little problem about a position that was collected in a private registration of former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, that was talking that is still in contact with Putin, and they exchange bottles of vodka and wine, and like not love, but like letters, very kind. And Berlusconi said that Putin wrote to him that he's still in the top 5 of his best friends, and blah blah blah. So this created a huge problem in the last 2 days in Italy, because the Berlusconi's party, that is Forza Italia, declare themselves Atlantist and pro-US, but the personal position of Berlusconi, it's every time, let's say, controversial, because everybody knows that he's a personal friend of Putin. So from the very beginning, when Putin was in charge, from 2000, 2001. And so what will change in the Italian politics now? From today, there will be probably 2 days of political consultation. What does it mean? Actually, we have a parliament elected, but if you have any question or whatever, just put in the comments, because I'm seeing the people that is connecting. Or if you want to chat, there is the link in the description of the video or in the chat. So just click and we will accept you in the chat. So we will have 2 days of consultation. What does it mean? The parliament groups will go to the President of the Republic and they will make a proposal for the list of the ministers, because in Italy the ministers are accepted by the President of the Republic. So probably there will be the new government before Monday. The position of Italian government will be Atlantist, so let's say pro-West, and this declaration, not public, but it was private. It was stolen by a registration by like phone and publicated by Associated Press of La Presse, sorry. And by Berlusconi, created a little bit of, let's say, troubles in the new government. But I think nothing will change. The actual government is center-right, more right than center. And so...
It's like you're not allowed to have a fluid position or a... what's the word? Or be able to communicate with both sides. You have to either be with us or against us.
But in this case, it's different, because there is a political position and a personal position. So let's say that if you see all the story of Berlusconi, it's like every time make... let me check, because I don't remember the translation. Okay, like he's making every time jokes. Also, let's say bad jokes. So not only good. So also about with sexual stuff or whatever. So in the international consensus was a little bit out of sight. And in this case, you have to think that in the last declaration of Berlusconi is not every time lucid. You have to think that is 85. And the party, it's something that it's more than a personal party. The main problem, it's not about foreign politics. It's that Berlusconi is not prepared to don't lead the coalition. So actually, the party that won the election, it's Brothers of Italy, Fratelli d'Italia. So this party is led by a woman. So first problem for him, because normally is like leading everything, and to be led by a woman, it's difficult for Berlusconi. First, second, she got more votes by herself, her party, than the other two of the coalition together. So she's very strong politically, and she will not, let's say, allow her political partner to destroy the success of this election. So she's very clever, because she's not making a lot of public announcement. And so let's see what will happen, because in Italy there is one thing I will send to you, but also in the chat. It's called Manuale Cencelli. Cencelli was a politician of the 50s, 60s, that I will send to you. And when there is the creation of a government, there is a type of partition of every seat that is regulated by an informal agreement. So who will take, for example, the Minister of Economy, it's the most important. The Minister of Interior, it's very important. Defense also. Natural environment is not important normally, but now yes, because there is a lot of money from the European funds. So and the ministers, it's normally given the best to the party that got more votes. So in this case, Berlusconi wanted one of her best, let's say, members of the party, aides, that is called Licia Ronzulli, one minister, and Fratelli d'Italia didn't want, and so there is a little bit of internal fight between the coalition, and it's crazy because the government it's still not in charge and they're already fighting. So I don't know how it can be last 5 years. So it's complicated.
I honestly, when the brothers of Italy won, and when Meloni became, well, she's not prime minister yet, as I understand it, right? No,
not yet.
Prior to these elections in Italy, I thought maybe a bit too much of a wishful thinking. I thought maybe Italy would change its stance towards Russia. Obviously, I'm biased in that sense, and perhaps this sanctions regime that's created in Europe will begin to sort of break down. But you're saying she's Atlantis, so maybe that was too much of a wishful thinking.
Okay, let's say this thing in Italy.
One second. I just if she's one sort of consolation I have about this is maybe if she's nationalist in a sense that she would pursue interests of Italian people over the European agenda. Perhaps there is some kind of hope that in the future, as she is becoming the prime minister, she will make choices in the interests of the Italian people and not whatever she is told to do. So will be independent in that sense, I guess.
Okay, let's say that
you can deal with that kind of character, make deals, communicate rationally. That's my point.
Okay. Let's say that the position in Italy, what I wanted to say is that it's very easy to be in the opposition because you can say everything that it's let's say appreciated by the stomach of the public. Like, let's stop the sanction because Russia will give us cheap gas. Example. Okay. The main thing is that if you see the quotation of gas, actually they are dropping down a lot, especially in Italy, because actually, as we said in the last updates, I think also the people were afraid about Germany. Germany now they have at least over 95% of the storage full of gas, and we think that it's a problematic for the, I think Putin's calculation about gas problem. It's that climate change. Now I'm in northern Italy, and today it's, I think, about 24 degrees, 23, and it's 20th of October. So the forecast for this winter, it's that will be a hot winter, not a cold one. And so in Italy, for also the public to understand the meaning about gas, the storage are so full and the using of gas is so low in the average of the previous winter that Italy is selling gas abroad. it's not like we are not maintaining our storage because we don't need all the gas that we storage. But let's say, okay, just returning to the question, because we have already people connected. But for the people, okay, it's not a problem about your English. Just connect. We can chat. There is free for people that want to enter. Don't be shy. I will put the link. Wait a sec, because I want to invite the people. Okay, I put the link on the chat, also in the description. Enter. It's like a free chat. Don't mind about your English. Also, I have a completely Italian accent in English, so no problem. We accept everybody.
Please join.
Alberto da Silva, so from Portugal. Don't you think it's time for the European Union sit down with Russia and talk about peace, or the US won't let the European Union do it? I think that they are still already making a lot of, let's say, background talking between US and Russia, for sure. The last weeks, a lot. I think European Union is not a position that can, let's say, trading any type of peace with Russian Federation. Why? Because we have 27 countries. We have 27 foreign politics. There is a very, let's say, hard position from the Visegrad group, like Poland, Baltic states, and whatever, they are very anti-Russians. But because they were, let's say, occupied by the Warsaw Pact for many years, so the memories of the last century, it's still in very historical, let's say, position. So I think that the European Union is not in a position that can trade anything with Russian Federation. I made a lot of talkings with Ukrainians. Personal talkings, only chat. I think that the Ukrainians' position is not ready to making any deal, because they want, if you listen every single declaration by Ukrainians, they say the peace treaty will made when the last Russian soldier will be out of Ukraine.
Except
think that
for Russia, that's not Ukraine anymore.
Only for Russia in the world. So I think that the main thing is that it's not possible to technically, especially for Crimea. So my personal position is that I repeat it every time. It's like that it could be a good position to return back to the border before February 24. I think it will be impossible for Russia in the long term to maintain the southern Ukraine occupied, especially if they will not have any direct help from other countries. And if we want to talk what we were talking before about China, it will be interesting about chip, because there is a lot of very bad info about China. So they are postponing the economic results in the last trimester. Never happened historically. So or they're very good or they are very bad. So in the second option, I think it's not a good. It's not
like
a
United
good,
States trying to redefine the meaning of recession.
But it's technically like the forecast that we had in Europe. It's about Russia. It's already a recession technically this year. we need to see, but Germany will be in technical recession at the moment for the first trimester of 2023. But if the realignation of the power supplier will be successful, as we know that it's already now in the Southern Europe, the problem is Northern Europe. But the Northern Europe can make agreement with UK and Norway to have more supplying from them. Because Norway, you have to remember that Norway is not in European Union. It's in Europe, but not in European Union, and it's full of gas and oil. So actually, the main problem is that Norway made a lot of money by this crisis because they increased a lot of the supply to Germany with high prices, and so. Let me check if we have other question. So you don't have to train your English speaking before. Okay, so connect and we wait you. Okay. Question. What are your thoughts on Lazarov's statement on reducing the Russian diplomatic presence and shift it to other countries in the global south? I don't know.
I hate
Islam. Because I don't know. I didn't listen. So
yeah,
what
just
Lavrov said?
Basically, there's no work and too much harassment of the diplomatic corps in European Western countries. So since there's no work, I don't remember exactly whether he said that they are going to reduce the corps, or if they're planning on reducing the corps, and he's just expressed his frustration about it. I don't like any
okay, let me check.
Reduction of communication.
The declaration technically
someone explained to me long ago, or I heard it somewhere, that to have to be effective at solving issues, you have to have staff specialists in particular areas on both sides that have to communicate if they want to be effective. And if you reduce that staff, if you reduce those specialists, if you cut those communications, basically it will be very difficult later to restore it.
Okay, now the declaration was this one. So, okay. Just to make it... So, Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday said Moscow could reduce its diplomatic presence in Western countries, blaming relations with Europe and United States and Russia needs to build ties elsewhere. I have to say that, Kitter, I didn't listen his declaration, but I don't know. Technically, probably, in my opinion, could be also an economical thing, because diplomatic, let's say, consular part and embassies are very expensive. If I remember, like, I think that when I was in Washington first time 10 years ago, I went to Embassy Street, and that it's amazing, because if you like politics, in one street there is all the embassies of all the states in the world, and the biggest embassy in US it's Russian, so it's huge. If you are curious, check Russian embassy in Washington. You will see it's like a town. And it's a huge building. Second one was China, but the biggest it's Russia. It's historically because it was like the Soviet Union embassy before, and I don't know. At the moment, I think that all the declaration that we got every week, it's not understandable because we cannot see the macro events that is behind the war. There is also a huge debate of that it's very interesting, and few people talk about it, about Saudi Arabia. You said the last time about
Yeah.
OPEC plus, if you remember. I checked a little bit more, and it's interesting that if you read the text that I sent to you about the agreement of US and Saudi Arabia of the 50s, it's like the practical agreement is that the Saudi Arabia is buying weapons from US, and US Army is protecting the Saudis, let's say, royal family. Technically, the defense of Saudi Arabia is managed by the US, because if you check the army of Saudi Arabia, it's very small. And if there is any type of blackmailing by Saudi Arabia about gas or whatever, or oil price, the top, I think that the top 10 weapon supplier of Saudi Arabia, it's all from West. So I think
They
that
can't really
it's
replace all of it, right?
No.
Immediately.
And the worst enemy
Although,
historically
to
of
be
Saudi
fair,
No, but
Russia also produces its own weapons. Russia also has private military contractors. You posted something in chat.
No, okay, but
Telegram.
technically, the worst enemy of Saudi Arabia, it's Iran, but it's Russia allied. So I think that you cannot make like the.
I wonder if there is a way to sort of soften that animosity as well through Russia. No,
you cannot, because one it's Shia and another it's Sunni. So it's different type of.
With each other for a very long time, as far as I know. It's not like an inherent animosity. They don't have to kill each other. They don't.
They're actually in war in Yemen, because like Saudi and Iran, it's technically they have a proxy war like Ukraine in Yemen. So actually, Iran and Saudi Arabia are in war, because Saudis is supplying directly the actual government, that it's on the eastern part of Yemen, and Iran, it's supplying the Houthis rebels that are in the west part. And so I cannot understand. It's like to say that US and Russia will be allied tomorrow, and I don't think so.
They don't have to be allied tomorrow, but honestly, even with all the if we're talking about US and Russia, or Iran and Saudi Arabia, if there is a platform for communication, Saudi Arabia is I guess it's planning on joining BRICS. If there is a platform for communication, if there's maybe some mediation, I don't know if any of those issues, particularly if it's something military conflict, it cannot be resolved through negotiations. And even between Russia and the United States, this administration will eventually go away if we don't blow each other up tomorrow or until the 30th, when these military exercises will be over. Hopefully we'll survive that. Eventually, maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, there will be relations between Russia and the United States. It's natural. It's not.
No, but I think maybe faster.
Countries don't go away.
Everything will depend what will happen in.
As long as they talk.
Yeah, but I think that there is still the red line between the two countries. So they're talking. As I said in every speech, I think I love Russian people. I have a lot of friends also in Ukraine. For me, it's nonsense war between two brother peoples and population, and I think it's more like about politics. And the main problem is that there is no dialogues, and the war is not solving the conflict, because you can see that also actually the actual situation in in Kherson, where like there is an evacuation of the population to south, because probably with starting the final offensive in Kherson, it will have a huge effect on the civil population. I had like a lot of talkings with my friends living in Kiev, and the problem, it will be psychologically for years. Like, people is not going to the shelter because they are used to the bombs. So if you have like the anti-air alarm, they wait a sec.
Simply
So
ignore it.
they're used and they don't go. They only don't listen to it. Questions from the public. So, how is the new Italian government reacting to the current crisis? Are there any changes in the external and domestic policy? Okay, I think that the fear of energetical crisis, in my opinion, it's overquoted. Why? The problem is how the European Union will react in terms of public funds. What I want to say. Germany already said that they will put for reduce the bills of this year 200 billions of internal money, and there is a huge probability of an agreement of all the states to make a public debt, like a bond, euro bond, that will cover the extra cost of the crisis, and this bond could be paid by the taxation of the extra gain of the energy company. For example, in Italy, I can say you what happened. So a lot of energy company bought cheap energy and sold to the Amsterdam Stock Exchange quotation. So they make a huge capital gain this year, and the biggest of this company is public. It's like it's called Eni. So I think that there will be a taxation of these companies, plus public debt, but with a guarantee of a European Union, not of a single countries. I think that let's see what will happen in the new government next week. I think that it will change very few things. It will be a continuation of the last government, maybe with a different policy for the internal management. What do I mean? In Italy, it was started 3 years ago. One thing that it's called citizenship salary, reddito di cittadinanza, that gave at maximum 780 euros with for the people that has no work. In an exchange, you have to be available to ask to a job offer that is provided by the public. But this let's say policy created a lot of black job, because people was taking public subsidies plus working in black economy. And with this type of policy, especially in the tourism sector, there was no manpower, because the people said, I can choose to stay at home and do nothing and take 800 euros, or to go to work and take 1,200. So they decided to stay at home. So there was a lot of tourists, but no manpower in the hotels, example. And so I think that they will cut off this thing, and make it more as a public subsidies for the people that cannot work, not for the people that don't want to work. So this about taxation, the main policy is that they want to reduce as much as possible the progressivity of the taxation, like to apply one system that is called flat tax. I don't think that it will be possible immediately, but this is like the project. About foreign politics, nothing will change, because the major party, that is Brothers of Italy, it's Atlantist. Like when they was in opposition, as you said in advance, they said, we will cut off the sanction or whatever. The first day after the election, they said, we are with US, we don't cut everything. And so this is interesting, because when you are in opposition, you can blame the world and say everything what you want. Yeah. When you became in power, it's more difficult to say everything. Okay, other questions? There is people inside the stream, but you don't enter. I put the link, enter in the chat. So the Saudi Iran peace, if it will happen, will make a world a better place. BRICS shouldn't accept both of them until they bury the hatchet.
No, categorically. This is not the kind of mentality that works in this sort of situation. BRICS could be a platform for peace, negotiations. If you're going to force them to, it's like, what's the difference? If BRICS was an alternative to the US allied nations, to European Union, what's the difference if BRICS is going to bully its potential members in the same way the West does it? It's better to have BRICS as a platform for mutual communication and establishing of mutual relations and mutually beneficial deals, perhaps, that could lead to peace, instead of forcing peace under the logic that if you don't comply to our rules, we will not accept you into our private club or something like that. It doesn't work. It only antagonizes people even more. The same logic applies to nations as well, maybe even worse than to individuals, in case of individuals. So it's not going to work like that. At least that's my opinion.
No, I was checking about let's say the participation, the last meetings or whatever. I think that the biggest event that we will have, it will be in November of the G20s, because like I don't know if Putin will participate. I hope, but I don't think that he will participate. Let's see, because the BRICS, you have to see that actually there is one of the biggest country of BRICS that is in election, that is Brazil. We will have the second turn at the end of this month. So there is no real position of BRICS, because Bolsonaro, actual president, it's like a populist in a position that is like Trump a little bit. Lula, we don't know his real position, so let's see what will happen. I think India
wasn't
is not
Lula a president earlier, and wasn't BRICS established, created with Lula as a president?
Yes, it was like 2 mandates, but what we don't have a position about the foreign policy with Russia. Like India's position, it's very, very not aligned. I had a talk with my Indian friends, and let's say that they are trying to take the advantage of this situation, but they are mutual connected with US and Russia. Historically, Russia, because in the 60s, 70s, Russia helped India against China and militarily. And let's say that also the relationship between China and Russia, I think it's very overestimated. I think, in my opinion, what I wanted to say, it's like that historically, for example, KGB was able to enter in many countries, also US, but with very difficulty was not able to infiltrate in China. Because of there was hate love between the two countries, and now I think that the position of China, it's very ambiguous, because if you check the trade balance with Russia and with the Western countries, I think that Russia is not in the top 10 countries with trades with China.
Yeah. Well,
In opposite, China is one of the first supplier of Russia. So if you check like who is gaining, it's China, not Russia. And Russia and China, if we'll have more sanction, like we said in advance, but we can talk about it. I think that more than, if I can check the data, but 60% of the market of China, it's Western countries. So and Russia less than 5%. So if you have to choose, it's very, let's say, clear what you can, let's say, lost
in the
if we
immediate,
do the wrong move.
maybe, if that's the logic.
It's not a market. Russia is a poor market. It's 140
Yeah, I understand that.
million with
That's not what I'm saying. It's like, I understand, obviously money are a major consideration in this context, but if you remember, I wrote you about it a little bit. It's money is important, maybe, but not maybe, of course, but these the people that make decisions on Russian, on the Chinese side, on the side of Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, there's almost a generation of leaders that are I don't know if it's appropriate comparison. They're not necessarily as managers as much as monarchs, in a sense, and it's a little bit of a different approach. Now, I don't claim that I can read anybody's mind, but the thought is that instead of thinking about money necessarily and in immediate, in terms of immediate benefit, maybe they're thinking a little bit about in terms of decades and history, and the planning that goes into the relationships that are created today is aimed at not at immediate profit, but at future profit and some kind of future relationships that could be built decades from now. So it's a little bit different mentality. If we just take, for example, MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, he's 37 years old. A little bit, I focus on him a little bit too much, maybe, but he's 37 years old. He has all the access to all the best medicine in the world, basically. He's potentially going to live, I don't know, 100 years old, 107, 70 more years. And he will remain the monarch of, well, he's not monarch right now, he's a prince, he's a crown prince, but he will remain the leader of Saudi Arabia for the coming 50 years, maybe longer, and could be active throughout all that time. And if something changes in the medicine, he might live even longer than that. So he has to plan his future and the future of his kingdom with that in mind. And it's the same for Putin, and it's the same perhaps for Xi Jinping. And it's a different approach to planning, as I understand it. Maybe it's just my fantasy.
Okay, but I mean, different is that Xi Jinping is 69 and Putin is 70. So it's,
Sure, but they're thinking about
I think it's like
about the future of China as and the Chinese new century. They're thinking about the rest of the century. They're planning what will happen with the country
in
the
English.
future,
It's called
forward.
backlash. It's like in Italian it's called like colpo di coda. It's like when you do like this. I think that I didn't want to share like the image, but only to say to you the actual situation of 2020. Let's say that for Russia, China it's the first country for export, 49.3 billion. For China, Russia it's the 16th countries for export. So the dependency it's Russia by China. Russia is dependent by China, not vice versa. For US, the export to China it's huge because it's about 122 billions. So it's the third country for export for US. It's China, and the export to compare. China's export to Russia is 50 billion. China export to US it's 440 billions, and this I'm not talking about the total West. I'm talking only about US. No, but you have to think.
But it wasn't like that always. There was a time before current situation where some group of leaders had to plan for current profits and for current trade situation. It's not a static.
No, I understand, but the main thing is that actually with the actual situation, there is forecast where, like, I think that China was able in the GDP nominal to pass over US, I think in 2035. Let me check. Okay, the forecast is 2030. Okay, so not a long time, but from this year, this time it's for sure postponed because the China's economy is not growing like it was before, and with the actual situation of instability of Russia and southern China Sea and Taiwan situation, if there is a lot of war analysis that says that if the military of Russian Federation China was aligned, probably Taiwan and Ukraine was in a, let's say, special military operation at the same time. So everybody, I think that they are taking their own interest and position, changing every day in base of what was happening. Example, I'm asking by myself with my friends why Israel is not giving weapons to Ukraine. because technically now they're in a good position to give it, because Iran is giving drones to Russia, and everything is connected to diplomacy. If there is a weapon from Israel sold to Ukraine, Israel will have a lot of problems with Syria. And in Syria there is presence also of Iranian's army. So it's very complicated now. For example, the first supplier of Armenia of weapon was Russia. But Russian is not helping Armenian anymore because they're, let's say, occupied in Ukraine. So what is inside the new deals of weapons in Armenia? India. Why? Because Azerbaijan it's helping politically Pakistan. So it's something that it's bigger than we can understand in geopolitics, because it's a complete world alienation of everything. It's not about US and Russia.
No, I get it. It's the similar thing that's it's a bit condescending term, but adult diplomacy, where one shining example of that is Erdogan, where he says something condemning Russia and saying that Crimea should become belongs to Ukraine, but then he visits Russia, and now they're supposedly Turkey is going to become an energy hub for Europe. For Russian gas.
Okay, this is on let's say on plan, but so this is why Turkey every time it's a little bit bridge between East and West. But you have to remember that Turkey is a NATO member. So let's see if Erdogan can do what he wants, because something it's to make a chat with Putin and then to make a deal agreement. Because I don't think that now it will be possible to make a Turk stream between between Russia and Turkey without any consequences from US. Czech also is like the first supplier of weapon of Turkey.
Apparently there was an attempted assault on Turk stream recently.
Yeah, but no, it's something that can let's at my let's say position, it's that when the end of the war will come, I hope as soon as possible, I think that the relationship between Russian Federation and the European Union will restart, for sure, also with gas import, but with much lower quantity. This is also a reason why Russian Federation to don't collapse economically have to search other buyers like Asia. In mid or long-term prospect, I think that China and India will need a lot of energy, more than Europe, not because Europe will go down, but because if you check the mid-term and long-term let's say policy of European Union, it's like to reconvert completely to renewable, and so gas and fossil fuel will be much less in quantity, and this will be not a solution for Asia, and especially from India and China, because they need much more. In India and China, it's 2.5 billion people. Europe it's 500 million. So but let's see. Other questions. Okay, Kitter, I heard Poland is number one supporter for Ukraine, but all the ordinary Polish people I've seen are not happy with their government choice. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that Poland, it's the if you want to see some let's say anti-Russian. I cannot say Russophobic, but anti-Russian state in European Union. This is Poland. Historically because it was invaded, and historically because it was separated between Germans and Soviet Union with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Also, Baltic states are completely not pro-Russian. But all the rest, as I repeated from the first stream, I think France, Germany, and Italy were very, very, very friendship with Russian Federation. So this is why for me it's economically stupid what happened, because we lost the diplomatic field. Also, you said before, I think that with a good dialogue and diplomatic capacity between the two parts, this conflict was able to be solved with a lot of more death on the count, let's say less.
Unfortunately,
Civil problem.
win now.
Also, when someone will win, but I think it's a Pyrrhic win, because you destroyed one state, you lost a lot of young people. So for what? For a little bit of ground? I don't know.
This conflict reminds me, like imagine a gamble, jumping off a cliff together, and to figure out who strikes the ground lighter and breaks into fewer pieces and manages to bring themselves together faster. That sort of gamble.
And if you think about the real situation of actual conflict, I was checking that let's say that there is we cannot know the real situation on the ground, because you have two different propagandas. But I think one institution that is with good analysis is Institute of the Study of War, and every day it's very updated and with forecast. But just to understand why it's let's say a little bit unsolvable, the war on ground, especially for the Russian let's say initial goal. I don't think that Russia is using 10 or 20% of their forces, because if it's like this, it's very stupid, because you are losing, because you are not able to use on ground your forces. I think that the war is very difficult and very expensive. And if you check the investment of the US, it's less than 1% of their annual military budget. So this is like a scale to understand why it's unsolvable, the problem, if both the parts are pushing to the maximum of this war. It will be a lot of losses more, but you already know how much money it will come from both parts. And it's like, I don't know, 1 to 100. So it's so this is why for me it's they have to talk and solve this problem, especially for the civil people. Let me check other questions. So I think that one of the BRICS potential is huge market, a lot of consumers that can replace the Western consumer markets. As I said to you in advance, I think it's wrong, because especially China has a huge problem in demographics. I will try to make one speech in the next streams. So the actual average consumers in Russia is still not comparable to the Western markets. Brazil, it's much poorer than our average standards. India, I cannot put in that, because we have a lot of very rich people, but the majority is very poor. So this is why in the short term, the BRICS, it's not, in my opinion, a platform that could be good for selling stuff. It's the biggest market for me as raw materials. So as you said, but the only power in BRICS that can compete in short term, it's China. The others, I don't think so. But also China has a lot of... Yes.
Sorry,
Tell me.
please continue. I try to understand what BRICS is based on. What is it about? Like, it was a bit complicated. First thing you think about when yeah, sure, it's an alliance: Brazil, Russia, India, China,
South Africa.
South Africa. Thank you. But alliance over what and for what purpose? I try to understand it, and I went on a wiki. Don't hate me. I use wiki as a
me too. I'm in wiki also.
But and I try to figure out what are they building together. Like, what is the alliance for? And the first things that I found out were they're building financial institutions internal to BRICS. Like, oh God, I lost the page. I don't have the page open. It's like
but it's called a New Development Bank, NDB.
Yes.
But if you check
in payment system,
yes,
as an alternative to what the sanctioned countries in the West, what the sanctioned countries are prohibited from accessing in the West. So I don't know. Never mind. I just wanted to understand what it was. That's it. Sorry if I interrupted you.
Okay, sorry, but I lost it for 1 second. So, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let me try because I lost.
My point sort of petered off. I don't really. I was just wondering what BRICS was essentially as an alliance. What was the nature of alliance? It's not a military alliance.
Military alliance. No,
it's a financial alliance that works, as I understood it, as an alternative to the financial institutions of the West that sanction countries and countries that may potentially be sanctioned in the future are trying to create an alternative to. So, that's
okay.
what BRICS is.
I think that if you check about, let's say we were talking also in the roundtable, I think that all this institution normally is created after one new world order. Let's say that the actual world order was created in Yalta in 1944 between US, UK, and Russia. Soviet Union at the moment. And the financial institutional, let's say, entity that was created at that time in the project was the World Bank. And I think that China is a huge part of World Bank. So this is, BRICS have not a military alliance. They are not coordinated. South Africa economically, if you check, is not a big player. They have historically it's like a black swan. Like every year, they have the capacity for raw material to become a world power, but for social constitution, they came after years of segregation of black people or whatever, so they have a lot of problems. Brazil, it's completely let's say, complex country because it's one of the first food supplier in the world. It's very complicated country because it's very mixed, it's multicultural, it's very white in the south, very black in the north, with a lot of contradiction of very rich people, very poor people in the same country. And it's completely divided between right and left. So it's not, let's say, not stable. India, I went there in 2017. I think it's a very fascinating country, very growing one, and they're very proud of their country. But you have to think that China is not a nation. It's a republic. As a federal state, there are many states inside India. Is very, very decentralized because there is not a national language. For example, everybody think that Hindi is the national language of India, but it's not. It's only English, because Hindi is spoke only by 50% of the Indians. So it's very complicated to manage these countries. The only one that has a line of growth that was constant till 2020 was China. I went in China 4 times, 2016, 17, 18, 19. I visited Qingdao, Beijing, and I went like to see, like, let's say, the real China a little bit inside. It's a population that is very proud. They have a very big tradition, millennial tradition, very under the rules. But I don't think that, let's say, they will have a chance to be with a stable growth as they did in the last 30 years for a long time. China was the only country of the world with a growth with two numbers, more than 9, for many years. And why they needed this? Because they wanted to move the population from the interior, let's say, old economy China to the coast. If you check, except one big city that is the biggest city in the world, but I don't remember the name, because
Shanghai?
it's no. It's okay. It's let me check. It's called Chongqing. It's 31 million people. But it's completely subsidized in China, and all the other big cities in China are on the coast, because economically China is organized to create free trade zones connected to the harbor, so you can produce and send and receive, produce and send, and it's very interconnected with the harbor. So the economy, it's like for export, not for internal market. So let me check questions. Okay. Let maybe we check the question. Maybe we will talk other 5-10 minutes and we close. So okay, it's just barely beginning to show my opinion so far at the tone of reshuffling of the resources, but not a full stop except in the gas from the late summer. But yes, it was about raw materials. China is very desperate about losing the raw material imports in the case of sanction. We were talking, Kate, before with Islam about the chip. If you can talk a little bit about what you got, so we can about China and chip. Okay. There is this list. It's like United States sanction against China. The only okay. There is one entity list where the sanction is to Sin Electronics of Shenzhen for supplying Russian military procurement network. So this is the new things. So it means that, for example, US companies cannot buy these chips from China. It's not vice versa. So, as we said in advance, let's say that the export to US is about 440 billions of euro, and it's mainly technological electronics. If you start to sanction the chips producer in China to US, it will be a huge loss for the China's economy. So it's a form of blackmailing. Like, do you want to support Russia? Okay, you will use export to US.
There's an interesting speaker on the topic of US and China relations. His name is Jim Kennedy. He's a US national. He talks a lot about, for example, Chinese rare earths monopoly, and he in his interviews he mentioned that he bought a mine. I don't remember, in 2000s, I believe, in mid 2000s, and started researching what he could sell and use off of this mine, some kind of documents he found, and he realized that at that time something like 90% of all the rare earth minerals that basically are used in all electronics were produced and reprocessed through China directly. So and now today it's something like 60%. So basically all the electronics, all the resources that the modern technology is based on go through China. And it's not just the rare earths. They apparently, if I'm remembering correctly, China has control over copper industry. China has control over some many cobalt, some other key resources, many other key resources, to quote him. And they actively worked on achieving that control, monopolistic, by sometimes through using that control to push other companies and competitors off the market by lowering the prices below their profit margin threshold, or that's a term I don't understand, so I'm not going to use it confidently. But you can't really. The point I guess I'm trying to make is I don't know how well you can actually sanction China without huge damage and backlash, the word you used, to the United States and to the West, and to the economy as a whole. global economy as a whole. So I don't.
This is why I think that China will be not sanctioned. It's like it's the China's economy. It's about 20 times or minimum 15 times the Russian economy, and it's based by export of goods, not of commodities. This is the biggest difference between Russia and China. China, it's have a trade market with Russia about commodities, like import commodities, exporting goods. If you check about what is happening in the Russian market now, it's like military, not military, car supplies or whatever. There was nothing that was really built completely in Russia. Nothing. Except agriculture and something else. But technologically, Russia was completely dependent by foreign markets. A lot of US, a lot of European Union, and there is no one state that it's completely self-dependent by their resources or technology. What will happen? I think that for years, for sure the last 20, 30 years, China was used as a platform for be a producer of goods with low, let's say, manpower cost. But if you check, the manpower cost in China increased a lot. So a lot of multinational companies already moved the industries from China to other countries. That could be Vietnam, that could be Bangladesh, could be India or whatever. So the redesigning of also the production sites, not only the commodity sites, I think it's such a form of redefining what will happen in the next 30, 40 years. And China, I think, have to secure their alliance with Russia. I'm not talking with Putin. I'm talking with Russian Federation because the leaders are not infinite. So there will be someone after Putin. There will be someone after Xi Jinping, because it will be very cheap for China to import resources from Russia or other interesting neighbors like Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan also. But historically, China have a lot of problems with Central Asian countries because they are Muslim. So if you know the let's say the relationship between China and Uyghurs, they are not very kind with them. So this is why when I was talking with a friend that is specialized in Central Asia, he said to me that in a future military alliance, all these Central Asian countries will watch to Turkey, not anymore to Russia, to put them in a protection against China. So what could be a scenario of agreements between them? It could be economical agreement, but with military supplying of Turkey. Turkey could be a bridge between East and West because their position is very, let's say, ambiguous, but they're still a big NATO member. Actually, let's say that Ukraine will not be a member of NATO soon. If we say something like this, Turkey is still the second biggest army in NATO after US. It's huge. So I think that this forecast will be true, like that the Turkish population of Central Asia will be more and more in connection with Turkey. I'm talking about Azerbaijan, I'm talking about Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all these countries like in an equator line to China from Turkey. So let me check if there is last question just to close. Okay, what are your thoughts about the ongoing semiconductor war between Washington and Beijing? Liz Truss making a mistake of antagonizing China, especially with economic problem on. I think that Liz Truss government will not last long because they don't have a majority internal of the Tories. She made a lot of mistakes about saying to cutting taxes, and this cut was not economical covered. So just check the value of the pounds, and you will understand whether the market already. Let's say no to all the policy and politics of United Kingdom. I think that the Brexit will be technically a disaster for UK. You can check the economical forecast. They thought that they could become a ultra-liberalist state with low taxation next to European Union, but it's not working. So and it's an island, so you have to import a lot of things, a lot of goods. They are very dependent from the European Union, and we are not dependent from UK. So it was a nonsense to economically to do Brexit, but they are saying that it will take time. Before it said it will take 1 year, now it's 5 years. So I think that you don't have to take care what the UK is saying because it's not very relevant. About US, it's different. No, US is different because I think that the only actor that can let's say be in a balance of importance with China, it's only US. Neither European Union, it's not united. So the battle of ground in the next year, it's only China and US. The others are let's say second level states and actors. So Islam, if you want to
For
say
a small bit of trivia, I was curious about it. The shortest serving UK Prime Minister was, I actually wrote it down, George Canning. He lasted 119 days. Liz Truss became Prime Minister in September, so she's bound, it seems like, to beat his record. Basically, she's going to be the shortest serving UK Prime Minister in history if she is deposed, or what's the word? Отставка.
Dismissed.
Not dismissed. Resigns. Yes, that's
Resign.
the word.
But you have to think that the next election in UK will be in 2025.
Oh, so she will remain as Prime Minister even if she
No. If she resign, it will be elected a new Prime Minister inside the Tories, inside the center right. But at the moment, the consensus of the Tories, it's the lowest historically. So if tomorrow they will make the election, they will lose 100%. So the problem is that in actually an example, the inflation in UK, I think it's very huge. Let me check, but just to give you one real data. 1 second. Okay. In UK, it's 9.81. The biggest inflation in Europe, it's about Netherlands, Holland at 14.5, Germany 9.9, Italy 8.8. But I think that all the inflation, it's mainly connected to gas and oil price. when they will stabilize. If you check the actual gas price, just to let me check in Amsterdam.
$1,100 for 1,000 cubic meters, if I remember correctly.
It's today it's 112. So, and the top was in 25th of August. It was 340. So it's the price is collapsing. So it's a symptoms that the strategy of redesigning the supplier it's technically working. We are not at the prices of the beginning, because just to take one number, the price was minimum was let me check. Okay. In okay, before February was 72 euro. If I check before, before it was before in 2021 it was 20. So it's still high, but it's not 340. So it's decreasing, and let's see what will happen. But I think that when because normally the markets are like take it all the effect of the inflation and the recession in advance. So when we will see the market growing, it means that in the next 3-6 months, probably the recession and the prices will be stabilized. But it's something very technically. Let me check. Okay, last question, and then we close. How realistic is for Germany to disconnect from Russian gas, maintaining its industrial competitiveness? Okay, this is another super myth. Actually, it's disconnected, Germany. So the main thing, and their storage, it's about 95% yesterday. The main thing, it's not about the capacity of having gas, because it's not a problem on the spot market, but about the price of the gas. And this price of the gas, it's like this everywhere in the world. It's not only in Europe. So the main thing, it's the idea of the actual government. It's like to don't use anymore the price cost of Amsterdam. The prices that I showed to you, it was the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, but to use the actual spot cost of a single country. For you to understand, Italy have a lot of direct contract of a national company that it's called Eni for long-term prices. So at the moment, they are importing gas from Russia via Tarvisio, but it's the border with Austria, with the prices that was in agreement of more than 10 years ago. So let's say $10 for cubic meters, but they are reselling to 112. So this is like
contracts.
This is like the starter of the market. So energy companies are making huge gain, because who made like a long-term contract, they are paying with the contract but selling with the market prices. So there is also a lot of speculation that it's managed on the energy market. But about this, we will have two streams with two speakers specialized in this market, Caroline Nake and Paul Sanders, one from Lebanon and one from US. I'm still waiting to have Anna Veretskaya from GIMO from Moscow. She will make a speech about the Russian point of view and their forecast. So, if you want to close or say something, Islam, and when we will go to
I
eat something.
I don't know what to say, honestly. I hope this returns to normal, but I don't have any particular hope, honestly. We'll see. We'll see. I
Let's
think
see.
I think this is gonna be like extreme speculation. All right, and it's probably not in good faith and a little bit biased. I think by the end of this conflict, if Europe, it's like, think what is happening actually right now on a large scale. All right, what Europe is lacking and what Russia is trying to preserve by this by fighting this war, it's sovereignty, and sovereignty translates very directly into sovereign control over living standards of the people in the countries. Right now, the situation is such that, as I understand it, that for the European nations, for the European people, an external power is deciding on the policies that will directly affect the living standards of the Europeans. And I think, and actually, to the point where, like, Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, has to smile listening Joe Biden talk about how they're gonna stop the Nord Stream 2, and then they blow it up, and well, allegedly, and Germany can't do anything. This is absence of control of absence of sovereign control over the living standards of their own people. And I think by the end of this, and if Russia were to on February 24th were to magically decide that it doesn't want to have war at all cost, eventually that sovereign control that Russia executes over, and Russian leadership executes over the standards of living of Russian people would have been lost. So it's about that control, that sovereignty. And I think what will happen as a consequence of this conflict in Europe in 10 years, maybe 10 years, I think it's going to happen within 10 years. The leadership that didn't secure that sovereign control will be replaced for what, well, let's put it that way, for a generation of leaders that will be like clones of Vladimir Putin, but in European nations, modeled after Putin. That's what I think is going to happen, basically, by the end of it.
I don't know, but
Massive speculation.
It's a good let's say provocation for the public. So let's close on your
Right.
on your closing, and maybe we will talk it later. At only for the people, I repeat to you. Now we're closing the open mic. It's me and is not 42. We are trying to have
Please
you more
visit.
inside, but because there is people connected, but you are shy. So for the next one, I will put it more in advance. In the next 18 days, I will be with +9 because I will be in Japan. So if I will have a chance to have like 1 hour free or whatever, I will try to make a speech also from there with updates or whatever. It's my first time in Japan, so
Say hello to the anime land.
I will do
I
it.
did it.
and I will send to you and to all the people some updates from there. It will be interesting for me because I will go to the Italian embassy, to the Italian Chamber of Commerce, to the Institute of Foreign Commerce in Tokyo. We'll go to the University of Okinawa and to Kyoto for a conference. So if I will have any updates or whatever from there, or I will be able to meet someone from the local political party, I will let you know. So stay in touch. I will put all the updates in the Telegram channel, and every day a sort of new contents will be posted on the channel. So see you soon and have a good
Thanks
incoming
for the
weekend.
stream. Bye bye.
Ciao to everybody. Пока.